All right. Hello, everybody.
Just getting set up here.
Putting our last final touches on the Peter side. Oh wait, yes. We're costumed up for Halloween. No trick-or-treating this year, but we're still celebrating in our small way. So we're gonna let everybody in as panelists as usual, which means you can share your video and unmute yourself when it's the time to do so. Yeah, so welcome everyone. And then I think we want to move the okay, so we don't see anybody yet, but we see that people have entered, which is great. So hopefully you're not having too much. Okay, we have a visual. Hi, Tima. Hello, yay, we have cat ears, yay! We can see everybody. Excellent. We love the use of the webcam.
All right. Do you want to grab the mouse? You might need that in a little bit. All right.
Here's the mouse. All right.
So how is the microphone volume? Is that all right? We're good on that?
Can everyone hear us okay?
Yeah. All right, cool.
Why is it not allowing me to click on it?
I don't think is there anybody? Say anybody's there.
View. Perhaps no one is joined. Okay, great. Welcome everybody. We got the music working this time, we think. Can you hear music? Sweet. All right.
Yeah, so we're gonna wait a little bit here. Do you want to play the video? So
yes.
Get to go click over
we
on
have a little video for people who come early.
Yeah.
So this
is from the vineyard itself. They, yeah, cool. Audio seems to be working. Hopefully it's not a laggy connection between the video and the audio. But all right, so we're just gonna let that play for a little bit, and then we'll go with the lecture.
Quinta do Vallado, established in 1716, is one of the oldest and most famous quintas in the Douro Valley. It once belonged to the legendary Dona Antonia Adelaide Ferreira and still belongs to her descendants. It lies on both banks of the Corgo River, a tributary to the Douro River, close to the town of Peso da Régua. For almost 200 years, Quinta do Vallado's main activity was the production of Porto wines that were commercialized by the Ferreira Port House, belonging to the same family. Following Dona Antonia Adelaide Ferreira's great achievement, her great-grandson, Jorge Viteiro Ferreira, and his son, Jorge Cabral Ferreira, were the main architects for the further development of the Quinta's vineyards and winery. After the sale of the Ferreira Port House in 1987, under the direction of Guilherme Álvares Ribeiro and his wife, Maria Antonia Ferreira, the company decided to extend the business towards the production, bottling, and marketing of its own label wines. It was the beginning of the brand Quinta do Vallado. Also, in 1993, under the guidance of Professor Nuno Magalhães, a deep restructuring of the vineyards was started, with the objective of increasing production of high-quality grape varieties. With 50 hectares of vineyards aged from 6 to 15 years, and 20 hectares of old vines with more than 80 years of age, Quinta do Vallado and its executives, João Ferreira Álvares Ribeiro, Francisco Ferreira, and Francisco Lazabal, all descendants of Dona Antonia, has achieved international acclaimed levels of quality and recognition. Quinta do Vallado's 70 hectares of vineyards are planted in the south and west-facing slopes of the slate soil, excellent for an optimum ripening of the grapes, taking advantage of Mediterranean climate. 2/3 of the vineyards were planted in the 90s, in terraces. The dominant varieties are, in reds, Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, Tinta Roriz, Barroca, Tinta Amarela, and Sousão, and in the whites, Vinhozinho, Rabigato, Muscatel, Verdelho, and Arinto. In the old vines, with over 80 years of age, there are more than 40 grape varieties, but the predominant ones are Tinta Amarela, Tinta Roriz, Barroca, Touriga Franca, Muscatel, and Malvasia Fina. In 2009, Quinta do Vallado acquired Quinta do Argal, with an area of approximately 40 hectares near the village of Castelo Melhor. This quinta, with a long front to the Douro River, has excellent conditions for the production of still and port wines. The new winery and barrique cellar, concluded in 2010, put together a state-of-the-art technology with a vanguardist architecture project, which makes it one of the places to visit in the Douro Valley.
Cool. Well, welcome everybody. That video just really kind of sums up everything, and I don't want to try to pronounce all the different grape varieties from the region, and I don't think you guys want me to either. She did such a wonderful job pronunciating everything.
Yes, my Portuguese is a bit rusty.
A little bit. Yeah, so with Portugal, one of the awesome things about it is there's so many native varietals that we just don't see anywhere else in the world. And so that's why it's really great to have these, kind of focused lectures that explore, not only just their field blends, but also like a single varietal that they're really trying to go with. So today we're gonna just kind of, welcome everybody. Happy Halloween. Hope everybody has their Halloween plans that are safe, but yet fun. This is ours, so welcome.
Yes, it's great to see everybody. So we've made all of you panelists, which means you can share your video and your audio. We ask that you stay muted for the sort of more factual portion of the event, but there'll be a time to unmute yourself and discuss as well. So, and there will be interactive portions for those of you who've come before. So the webcam is encouraged and appreciated.
Very good. So the lecture of today is we're going to go through some awesome maps and then talk about the history and how it became like a UNESCO site, kind of what that is, and then talk about the vineyard itself, because there's so much history from this specific vineyard within the region. And then we're going to get into tasting. So don't feel like you need to wait till the tasting to start enjoying your wine. You can really start getting in there now if you would like to. But do have in the back of your mind those things that we constantly talk about, like fruit forwardness, the oak notes, like, any kind of cedar, cinnamon, coconut, those types of notes. Also consider like the acidity, that mouth puckering feeling, the tannin, the body, how it feels in your mouth. And then we'll walk you through, that tasting part at the end. It's a little bit different of a agenda.
Yeah, we're trying something different.
Yeah, I think we're always trying something different.
It's never the same.
No. Can you click back over on that?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Cool. All right. So the best way to start off this lecture is to plan our trip, right? So we're all in the DC area, or some of us are in the DC area. We are. So it's just easy to, hypothetically, what would it look like if we wanted to, catch a flight from IAD? Now, there are cheaper flights, surprisingly, but you have to be on the plane for like 20 hours. I don't know where you're going. If you're on the plane for that long or, in transit, I kind of would rather just have a 24-hour layover, maybe in like Iceland or,
Check out the Blue Lagoon.
Yeah, that would be a heck of an awesome trip. And then at the bottom, we end up in Porto, which is where our journey will begin today. And so these are the old style river boats that have the barrels of wine and port already on them. All right, so this is our plane. We're coming in. And on this map, again, Wine Folly has great, maps and diagrams and explains wine in such an easy to digest way. We still always go back to her material because it's just that awesome. Everything's nicely color coded. Anyway, so we're coming into Porto. It's near the, it's on the north west part of the country, right below Spain. And the other big city is Lisbon. But we're talking about Port because that's where a lot of the awesome wine regions are in heavy concentration. Of course, there's tons of great wine all throughout Portugal. But today we're focused on the northern part.
Yes, despite being quite a small country, I believe Portugal often makes the top 10 for wine production in the world. So even though it's quite quite small.
Now, we could take a trek just straight east and get to the Douro Valley, but, on this trip, we're, taking a nice long vacation. So we're going to go south a little bit to the Douro region, and they make really intense red wine that's still really high quality, and compared to what we're having today, it should have a lot more of that like big, bold, rustic feel. Whereas our wine is going to be a little bit more elegant and subtle and supple.
Silkier tannins. It's still going to be some big grapes, and they're going to have some big tannins, but the Dow is a bit more of a inland California-like sort of climate.
Very much so. All right, so now we're going to hop back in the car and head further east, and we're going to stop at the Douro Valley. And so as we go from the western part to the more inland part, we get away from the fertile soils, and we get less rainfall, and we get hotter summers and colder winters. Basically, the conditions to really beat up our grapes.
Make them stressed.
Yes.
So they dig deep for that water.
And stressed grapes produce concentration, and that's what we always want. So where we are today, this producer, they own a ton of different vineyards all throughout the Douro Valley, and so they have a lot at their disposal to make awesome grapes. So as we're going back though to Porto, we're going to stop by Vinho Verde because we have to go to the ocean since we're already here. They have some great Alvarinho
in Portugal, Alvarinho in Spain, and they fight over who really it originally came from.
And those just go so well with the seafood that comes right in, at the Atlantic. That would really put a, capstone on that wonderful vacation of ours.
The imaginary one.
The imaginary one that we totally haven't planned out. All right, so now talking about terroir, right? What is it that gives a sense of place? And it comes down to like the climate and everything else, but that's all based around the big structures that lead into it. So we have the Atlantic Ocean to the west, and then that is going to produce like a lot of cold, and it's going to have precipitation coming through. But we have two mountain chains. We have a mountain chain, kind of to the north and a little bit to the south, and that's going to stop a lot of that cold Atlantic current climate to really affect the vineyards. And then we also have the river itself, that this is all based around, the Douro River. But we have a ton of littler rivers that flow into it that make it, a constant flowing river. And finally, that is what makes up the Alto Douro, our very, very awesome wine region that we're going to be exploring.
Yes, and so one thing to add is this is the Douro here in Portugal, but it actually becomes the Douro in Spain, which can sometimes be a little bit confusing. We are talking about the same thing, but they are going to be called something different depending on which country you're in.
The same river, yes, yeah. Very long river, goes all the way from all the way to the Atlantic from Spain. All right, so now we're going to get into the history portion of our lecture. So Beth, could you read this? You just have a much better voice than I do.
So this long tradition of viticulture that's present in the Alto Douro wine region has produced a cultural landscape of outstanding beauty that reflects its technological, social, and economic evolution.
And so this is from the UNESCO World Heritage Site. And they kind of go through and they have different criteria that a region has to meet in order to become a UNESCO site. So we're going to dive into that as to what criteria the Douro River met in order to become this UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it has been producing wine for 2,000 years.
Since Jesus.
Since Jesus. and so just that longevity of doing the one thing is a criteria. And has been molded by human activity. It's changed throughout its course over the 2,000 years. Practices have changed. The landscape around the region has changed as well.
Been molded by human activity too, and there's this intricate dance between the region and the people forming the region too.
Right, because we have when port came, we have the river just being utilized as a main form of transportation for the wine in this region. Even the hillsides have been carved out because they're really steep, and you can kind of see it in these pictures that we're going to be going through. And humans, went through and made these terraces to support the grapes, because otherwise they just were too steep to actually grow grapes on.
And harvest.
And harvest, yeah, because you have to be able to get out there to do all the harvesting things. So, the landscape has an expansive range of activities. So Quintas, like the first name of our bottle that we have, means kind of the farm, the fermentation houses, the living quarters, and the vineyards, kind of all in one plot of land. And so that's considered a quinta.
And you can kind of think of it as analogous to chateau in France, if you're more familiar with that.
Yeah. And so here we have a beautiful picture of that sidescape of the terrace, and it's schist and granite soils, so not easy to make these out of. One of the crazy cool things, and again going back to that human molding the land, was that we have this. Before phylloxera, they made it to where, just because of the way they had the labor and the technology to make these terraces, they would use huge boulders, and then they would have enough land and soil to plant 2 different vines. That was it. So it was 2 vines, big boulder, and then the next row, and down it went. So it was not very efficient because you only have 2 vines, but I guess you could go through and harvest all of this, those 2 at the same time. And then after phylloxera came through, they had to rip up a ton of the different grapes and the grapevines and replant. And at that time, they went and put the infrastructure in to have a little bit longer of terraces with a little bit more slope, which allows for the sunlight to capture on those different cliffs, the south and north facing, as it winds through the Douro River. And so that was a really important infrastructure act that the people did when they were changing out the grapevines that allows for really high quality wines, because it just improves everything. It improves the sunlight exposure to the grapes. It gives them a little bit more room for the roots to grow. I mean, these guys are going deep into that schist and that granite because there's just no nutrients there and it's really dry. Mm-hmm. They're really struggling. It's awesome. Yeah, and so, yeah, okay. Yeah. And then the last one is, you want to read the last bullet?
Sure. Outstanding example of traditional European wine producing region reflecting the evolution of this human activity over time. So this is one of the regions that actually was first demarcated as a wine region, and that was because port has been produced since 1600s, 1700s, depending on where you want to draw the line at the beginning, and it's just such a tradition that's been kept through the years.
Exactly. And that's 1756 when they started regulating the port wine. It really put a lot of quality kind of regulations into play that made it to where it became so internationally loved. It is to this day. It is to this day. I don't necessarily think that like me and the people that I interact with are just all gung-ho about port. I don't really get that much exposure to it. And, well, that's for another lecture.
It's not, yes, it's not as trendy at the moment in the place that we're in here, but there are still regions of the world that it's very popular.
Yeah. But because I think the American market isn't drinking as much port as other regions in the world, the still wine production is starting to be, exported from Portugal, and we're starting to get more of it here. it's not like they haven't been making the red wine, the still wines over in the Douro Valley. They just haven't been exporting it. And a lot of things have changed in terms of the infrastructure that went in to allow the wines to get out from the Douro Valley. That came in, very recent years. Okay, so.
Oh yeah, one note I'll add on that, yes, is it was in the 80s, so it was what came before the European Union, the European Economic Commission. But what came before the European Union in the 80s really brought a lot more money and infrastructure in, and that's one of the things we were talking about, which maybe we'll touch on again. And it's really then that the dry red wine production in this region was able to, we were able to start tasting it, and since then it's just gotten better and better, and we're drinking some really great stuff tonight.
Exactly, yeah. Because the river used to be held by the port houses. And so if you were making still wine and you didn't have, a port house, then you couldn't export it out of the region.
They literally had a monopoly going, or cartel kind of situation.
Kinda. And we have a situation where once roads were made that connected the Douro Valley to Spain and some of the highways and stuff, then trucks could finally get back and forth and get in there and get the wine out. Yeah. All right. So moving on to our Quinta do Vallado. We have it built in 1716, so that's a really long time ago. And this river is more on the western side of Portugal and of the Douro Valley. And our superstar that we're going to be talking about was born in 1811. All right, I'm going to try this. I was practicing this for a while.
It sounded so good earlier.
It sounded so good.
No
and now I'm all
pressure.
nervous. Hold on, I need to take a sip of wine first.
I hope you all are enjoying the wine as well.
All right. Antonia, Adelaide. No. All right. Well, you can read it there. We can look it up later. They said it at the beginning of the video that we watched at the beginning of this
Donna
lecture.
Antonia, though, is I think that if you want to shorten her name.
So she was widowed at 33 and took on the 2 plots of land that they had on both sides of the river, and she had to make it work. And she did. She really cared about the wine that was being produced, and she took on the business. But one thing that sets her apart from everybody else is that she really cared about the people of the town, the farmers, the workers. She really was a hero to them. Like in bad vintages, when they weren't making as much money, she still paid everybody what she could and became beloved by everybody. When it comes to the government, she kind of put pressure on them to help the region, the Douro Valley region. And when the government didn't step up, she was like, fine, I'll do it. So she helped build infrastructure, build roads for the towns, chapels and schools, and really kind of tried to keep this high quality of wine in the Douro Valley. At that time, when she was really starting to get moving, a lot of the still wine was being imported from Spain to be drunk. And so she was really trying to emphasize quality and export, their wine. So when phylloxera came and it hit and took everybody by storm, you have to realize this is not a very wealthy area. It doesn't have a ton of wine experts just walking through. The infrastructure just wasn't there. And so she went, at this point in time, she has a port house. She goes to England and consults with experts there, takes that knowledge back down to the Douro Valley, and starts doing what they need to in order to combat this, this aphid-like thing that just eats up the grapevines. It disconnects the nutrients from the root to the upper part, and it allowed for the wine to keep being produced in that region.
Mm-hmm.
Without her, the region might have been lost forever, or it might have just struggled for a lot longer. All right, so let's see what else we had. And so in 1896, she passed away, and she left almost 30 vineyards. So she had 30 plots of land that she passed on, and her family still takes care of that land today, which is a pretty awesome story.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of heralded as one of the greatest entrepreneurs of Portugal. And I think it's really fascinating to look at women in wine throughout history, because when somebody would pass away, or, there was a situation where she was widowed at 33, there might not have been anybody else to just take over the land. And so they were given huge opportunities and they ran with it a lot of the times. We hear other stories like in Champagne because of the war.
There's a couple of good stories in Champagne about some pretty bold ladies stepping up and making the champagne houses a success.
Very much so. And a lot of times it's because of the war-torn areas, and the men go off to war. Who's left to run the business? The women. And they really excelled. And a lot of the times, the stories of note constantly have the same theme of emphasizing quality, emphasizing the care of the workers, and they are still remembered today. And I think that's fascinating. All right, so now on to pretty pictures. So I'm going to take a sip of wine. What we're looking at here is the Douro River. Both sides have vineyards on it, or they're planted. And over on the left side of the picture is actually the Quinta do Vallado, and that is what we're drinking today. So if everybody would give a cheers.
Oh yes, cheers everyone! Cheers.
That is so nice. All right, so now we get a little bit better of an angle. You get to scope it out from the aerial view. I think that these are so beautiful. And here's a wonderful view of the vineyards into that whole Quinta. So you can see the different buildings that exist along as we get closer and closer to the river. Now, hypothetically on our journey, this could be where you had breakfast in the morning, and hypothetically, this is where you could have dinner with, your closest friends that are on this journey with us.
A nice bottle of dry red wine from the Douro.
Hypothetically speaking, this is where you could stay. I'm not sponsored by these people. I'm just in such awe of this beautiful landscape, and then just such care. Like, the bathrooms look lovely. I don't know about you guys, but I really care that the bathrooms are immaculate and special when I'm on vacation.
So this Quinta has a well-known boutique hotel associated with it, and wine tourism is a big part of a lot of winemakers' income. I think this producer mentioned that maybe about a quarter of their income is coming from vino tourism. So they want people to come and visit and stay, and they'll put you up in a really nice suite like this one.
So this is the infinity pool overlooking the vineyards and the river. They have river boats that you can go out and, go down the river to the different vineyards.
Have a picnic.
Yeah, have a picnic on the river. That's right. So that could be you. Just in case if you were wondering what our flight cost, and then the room for 2 nights, because we have to go through the Dow. We could spend 2 nights here, maybe another night in another vineyard, and then we, go back by the ocean, and then hypothetically speaking. All right. So now the moment we've all been waiting for, the tasting portion. So if this is your first time here, you give a thumbs up if you agree with the first set of pictures, or a peace sign. We are changing it up a little bit more, and so this is kind of an overall flavor profile. What do you get on the nose and the palate? So the top is figs and violets and blueberries, and we're drinking the Field Reserve here.
We should talk about what field blends are versus the varietals. This is an important thing of note in Portugal. Should we do that after we taste? We should taste. And then we'll tell you about how awesome this wine is. And so the lower part is cherries and mushrooms and cracked pepper, hibiscus, and potting soil. So give that a swirl. And this is for the field blend. All right. So everybody throw it up there. What do you got? Okay, I see a thumbs up. I see a peace sign.
Oh, we got some peace signs.
I knew this would happen.
Right? Smell is subjective. So with this region, fig, blueberry, violets, and cedar are kind of more the tasting notes. The other ones are a little bit more typical of Pinot Noir. But again, it's still that flower and berries, and it's all about how your mind perceives it. So don't let any experts out there tell you that you're wrong.
But yeah, fruity floral character is very indicative of this wine. And so while you're sipping, we can talk a little bit about what a field blend is and why that's actually something pretty significant to Portugal.
Exactly.
So this wine is actually produced from a field in which there are many, many varietals present. I believe it's over 20 in this particular vineyard, and it's old vine as well. So we're talking 50, 90-year-old vines. And so they don't even necessarily know all the grapes that are present. And old vine plantings in Portugal, that's just the way it was done. They would have all the grapes mixed in there together. But it's becoming more and more popular, especially since replanting that we talked about after phylloxera and other things, to do single varietals. And there's a number of single varietals that are becoming very popular. And that's where we'll get into the second one. The Touriga Nacional is one of the big single varietals. But there are others you'll see. You'll see Touriga Franca and maybe some of the others. But this field blend is really a chance to taste the terroir of the region, because it's something very distinctive about the Douro that you get these field blends. And I think this is just a lovely, lovely wine.
We first saw this in the Wine Bible. And she goes around and she talks about each of the regions. And this is a producer of note, specifically the Reserva, right? And they don't produce the Reserva every year.
You'll notice it's vintage, and this is 2015, which was a good year.
2015. Again, we had a lecture at the very beginning of all this, and it really was just, if you're ever out and you don't really know what to get a 2015 vintage from the old world. All of it was good, and even in the Portugal region. So the way they use it, it's like kind of like their secret sauce. So it's just one plot of a ton of old grapes, like you were saying.
20 plus varietals.
20 plus varietals, and it makes this really concentrated, delicious juice. And that turns into great wine. In years where there's not a lot of great quality, they use that secret sauce to add to their Touriga Nacional, their other wines, in order to really kind of balance them out and make them really special, complex wines. But 2015 was such a great year that they didn't need any help. The Touriga Nacional could stand on its own. It didn't need that extra 10% of this field blend to be thrown in there.
And the field blend itself had a nice bold character, which isn't always the case in years that aren't as good for wine production.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of blending, is that you can take some, a good plot of land and play chemistry.
Yeah.
And so now we are going to play another game. And so we're going to ask that everybody get at the ready. So we're going to take a couple of, 30 seconds here. And I want you guys to think about the fruit intensity, which is kind of the amount of the berry notes that really come out of the glass on both the smell and on the taste. The oak notes. So it's like that kind of the potting soil, the spices,
cedar, dill, coconut, these are things.
And then the acidity, the astringency that you get on your palate. And then for both of these wines, we kind of said that it has silky tannins. Some other kind of descriptions of tannin are like grippy tannins, when it just completely just strips your whole mouth of all hydration.
Chewy
tannins. And powdery tannins is also a really common one. And you might not know or have experienced powdery tannins, but when you do, you'll be like, oh, yeah, I heard about powdery tannins once. And that's what it is. And then lastly, we're going to go over the body. And that's just kind of the viscousness and how does the mouth feel? And feel free to just be like, which one do you prefer in terms of, you don't have to say like, oh, you don't have to put up a one finger if you think that it is higher. Just be like, which one do you prefer more than the other one right now between the two?
So I guess we have to drink some of the Touriga Nacional.
We do have to drink the Touriga Nacional.
Goodness.
All right, so we're going to drink the Touriga Nacional, kind of get that in our head. And so if you think that the fruit intensity is nicer on the first one, then you'll put up a finger. If you think the field blend, you put up a 1. The Touriga Nacional, you put up a 2. And if you just love both of them, you don't even want to decide, just give us a thumbs up. All right, so we're going to taste these real quick.
Mm. Oh, another thing is these wines are meant to be decanted for a while. They're pretty big grapes, and so you might find it opening up if you only opened it at 7:30. We're only about 30 minutes in. These can go up to 60 minutes to be fully decanted. So that's just a little tidbit.
And also some of these, the Douro Valley high production or high quality wines can be aged in your cellar for 10 to 20 years and still have, great characteristics. I really feel that the Touriga Nacional
would be a good candidate. Yes. So which one are we doing first? Which comparison? Fruit intensity?
All right. So we're moving on.
Hopefully you've had a chance to taste both.
So who likes the fruit intensity of the first one or both?
I see. Okay, so a lot of peace signs and on some thumbs up. Oh, I see. Okay, there's some people with a one.
Yeah,
So it's a mix.
I saw one come out of the corner there. I love this interaction. This is great. So we can see, I think the twos had it there. I mean, I'm a little bit biased. I threw up a 2 myself, and that's confirmation bias. I was only counting the twos, and they had more. But great.
All right.
The oak notes. Oh, my.
So often, actually, having 2 wines, as we do now, when you're able to compare them directly to each other, allows you to distinguish more, I think, than when you're drinking only one alone sometimes. So. Yeah. You can smell them next to each other. All right, I see a lot of ones. Okay.
Oh, we got a 2 coming out of the corner there. All right.
This is what we like better. Is that right? Or is
which one you like the oak notes on more? Yeah, interesting. So the field blend has been aged a little bit longer, has another 2 years
in French oak.
Yeah, and also just in the bottle, it's it's
a reserve.
Yeah, cool. All right. So the acidity.
Oh, 100%. It's this one.
Oh, interesting.
Oh wait. Touriga Nacional.
All right, we'll give some people a little bit more time.
So you often feel the acidity on the side of your tongue, maybe in on the back sides. If you can feel that puckering.
Yeah.
When you're looking for acidity.
See, I really feel, I'm just gonna lay it out there, that the Touriga Nacional just is so much more food friendly. As just that intensity, the acid, it'll go really well with food. But that field blend is just so complex.
Oh, it's so lovely
wonderful.
On its own. Just a thinking wine.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, what's next?
All right.
Silky tannins.
So again, this is the tannin structure. How does it attack your mouth? So tannins, what it does is it actually binds with the proteins inside of your mouth and kind of creates this drying effect. And that's actually a desirable thing. Tannins also kind of come from the resveratrol that's healthy about wine. And so tannins are a good thing, but
all right, I suppose I'm gonna go with one.
Just going with
all
one.
Right, I see the peace sign. I see some. I see a thumb. Okay, thumbs up. I was almost in the thumbs up category.
Oh, that is true. They both are really lovely.
The tannin structure in both of these is just really lovely.
It really is.
Thumbs up, nice.
Yeah.
All right.
I do think I probably would change I probably would change my vote.
Okay, body. So again, we've probably talked about this many times in the past, but something to think about with body is, so water versus milk. Milk has more body than water. Lots of things contribute to body. Tannins contribute to body. Alcohol contributes to body. Sugar contributes to body. But which one of these that weight that do you prefer? I mean, I
think.
Okay, I see a thumbs up. I see a peace sign. One. Okay, we got each one of these. We got all the votes.
Yeah, it is actually really interesting looking out there. You can see that there's a lot of the squares they actually are going in unison with each other. So they kind of were in time.
I'm digging both.
Digging both?
They're both doing it for me.
I think they're both great in different ways. The light, gentle elegance of the field blend is wonderful just sitting here. But then also because we're starting to get into the colder, this full body, like a little bit more full body, a little bit more like intense rustic. It's just, plus it's storming outside right now. And so really that Touriga Nacional is really great for that stormy weather that we're having here.
And that's going to be one of the varietals, the single varietals you'll probably see the most from Douro and Dow as well. And the Dow version is going to be a little bit more big. Although I'd still say this is a fairly big one.
It is fairly big, indeed. So, in wrapping everything up, we took a flight over to Porto. We went down to the Dow. We continued eastward to the Douro. And then don't forget about the awesome seafood that we had with our Alvarinho before going back to, catch our flight out. We learned about the UNESCO Heritage Site, Antonia, and her awesome entrepreneurship spirit, and really kind of helping out the community and being an influence that's still talked about today. Tasted some delicious wines, and
from a very historic and quite wonderful Quinta.
Yeah, one of the things one quote that we came across was that Portugal and like the wine regions is where time stands still. Like, it's just so beautiful and elegant, and just people doing their craft. And it's beautiful. And so thank you, everybody, for attending. We're going to close the stream and open up the conversation. I do want to throw out a save the date for everybody. I've worked out with our local, shop local kind of idea, a package for 2 cupcakes and 2 dessert wine pairings. You'll get 4-ounce pours from Revel Wine. They are awesome. Really having fun working with these people. Like Lavender Moon has their head chef or head baker is also a certified sommelier. So when I called and was like, I think it should match these flavor profiles, she just kind of like sat there. It was early in the morning too, and was just like, yeah, why don't you just tell me what wines you have, and I'll go through my huge recipe list and pick the one that matches best. So they're kind of in almost like a little bit of a battle, at least in my head, where Revel's going to try to pick some awesome dessert wines, and then Lavender Moon's just going to try to pair with awesome cupcakes to go with it. And then we're going to talk about it, and you won't know which one's supposed to be paired with which. And then we'll kind of do the voting thing on that.
Yeah, so all this you can pick it up if you're in the Alexandria or DC area. It'll be at the Revel Wine Bar. Yep. And if you're interested, what should they do?
Contact me. So drop me a message, and however you know how to get a hold of me. That's probably the easiest way. Also, November 15th is we're having a Malese lecture with what is that? The Abruzzo and Malese Heritage Society of DC asked me to put on a lecture for them, and I said, yeah, sounds great. So I reached out to the producer of a Malese region, that a Malese producer who exports 60% of his wine, and he's really trying to put this region on the eastern side, eastern central side of Italy on the map, and really try to make that area known. He's doing some pretty cool stuff, and we're going to try 3 of his wines on November 15th at 1 p.m. And then the last one is November 19th. That's going to be just a really casual, that's not going to be streamed on YouTube. Really, Beaujolais Nouveau Day is the current vintage. They harvest it, ferment it, bottle it, and ship it across the world. And it lands at all your wine shops on that Thursday before Thanksgiving. So November 19th. And you go pick up a bottle. They have tasting notes of bubblegum, cotton candy,
grape popsicles. Now, if you want extra credit, though, you can also pick up a wine, either Beaujolais New Village or a Beaujolais Cru, which we'll probably be drinking a Beaujolais Cru, but all of them are lovely in their own way. And so, yeah, check it out.
Exactly. And so it's just going to be a casual hangout, and everybody's going to kind of show and tell what they have, and kind of talk about what their holiday plans are, and hopefully everybody's in good spirits, and that's kind of what that's about. So at this point in time, we're going to end the stream and open up everybody for conversation. So feel free to start unmuting yourselves once.
Well, yeah. After we are able to stop the stream, we can tell you, and then we'd love to hear what you think. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention that we didn't mention, which I know was something we were asked about, was what are typical price points for these wines? So one of the really cool things about Portuguese dry red wine is you can get something amazing for a really decent price. So what I have heard is for just sort of an entry but quite delightful Douro red, you could be looking at maybe $12, $10. If you're looking for something to cellar or something more extraordinary, the price goes up quite quickly though, so it can be upward $50 plus if you're looking at cellaring or a very quality producer. And I don't know if any of you did any sleuthing, but the Quinta do Vallado Reserva Field Blend from 2015 actually originally was priced, what was it? $70, and we were able to get it for this package from Wine Till Sold Out for a much more reasonable price. But that gives you an idea of the quality you can get. But you can get wonderful quality for that lower, like $12 price point. So that was just another interesting thing to mention.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. That's fantastic. All right. So to everybody on the streams, goodbye, farewell. And that part's ended.
All right. We are no longer live on the YouTubes. So for those of you in the WebEx, yes, feel free to unmute yourselves. We'd love to hear what you thought of the